Welcome to Amplifying Your Wellness with TLC, a place where we discuss your self-care and wellness through our guest stories, information, and tips on how to live healthier and happier lives. We are Twin Life Coaching and Business Services with your host, myself, Tara Lehman, and my business partner and sister, Barb Schutz. We care about increasing awareness around self-care and mental health through this podcast, coaching, consulting, and more. To find out about all of our services, please visit us at twinlifecoaching.ca. As a reminder, this podcast is for sharing of stories and information only and is not intended to be or replace any medical advice you are seeking or have received.
So today we're welcoming Dr. Carl Rothschild. He's a founder, a CEO, and author of the book Illuminated Healing. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I love sharing this information. Just to give you a background, it was 1972. And I was, I think, a junior in undergrad at Stony Brook University out in Long Island, New York. And I was, I was geared to be, I was pre-med and I was going to go in the medical route. But there was a rebellious side of me and also at the time, my friend, and we both started exploring chiropractic. And I wound up calling. Now, back in 72, most of you might not realize that it wasn't so easy to call all over the country. So we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have computers, none of that stuff. So long distance phone calls were a big deal. But I wanted to talk to chiropractors all over the country. And I never, ever found a chiropractor that wasn't thrilled to be a chiropractor. And that's what I wanted. I was my form of a hippie, I'll say. And my version of hippie was that my goal was to help people less than it was about how much money I was going to make. I don't mind making money, but if I wasn't helping people, it wouldn't have really been attractive to me.
Right.
So imagine getting involved with chiropractic. I started, eventually became a chiropractor in 1978. I wound up opening 12 practices in that, certain period of time since then. But about 27 years ago, now I'm a wise guy from New York who knows everything, right? Because we know everything. And so here I am 20 years into chiropractic. I know everything. And there's a medical doctor, his name was Chadwick Smith. And he said, you should take this thing that looks like a flashlight and shine it on your patients and it's going to make a difference. He was the first one to really bring red light therapy to the United States. He was the first one to really get it FDA cleared and all that sort of stuff. And
excellent.
If somebody would have seen me, you guys can't see me right now, but imagine my eyes rolling out of my head practically because I thought he was out of his mind. And here I'm going to shine a light on somebody that's going to make a difference. Well, it did. It revolutionized my practice. I was able to heal things I never believed possible. I had this lady had a gum disease. And she said, could you help me? Now, the only thing we knew back then was that you couldn't hurt anybody, no matter what you did. And that's still true. In the 50 years of studying this technology, there's never been a recorded side effect. So you couldn't hurt somebody if you tried. So I helped. She said she had gum disease. I helped a gum disease. And this guy said he had kidney problems, and I helped his kidney problem. This guy came in with a ripped Achilles tendon. That means that he was slated for surgery. In fact, I sent him to the orthopedist for the surgery. And that was like on a Monday. And the surgery was slated for either Friday or Saturday, I forget. But we said, well, let's use the light on you every day until then, maybe it'll make it easier for the surgery. And when he went for the surgical review on Friday, he didn't need surgery.
Oh, wow.
So I knew then that this was not a toy. And yet, and still remember that the equipment that we're using currently is thousands of times more powerful. And then the next thing that happened, now, so we're involved with lasers, and it was called cold laser. So those of you that have ever heard of low-level laser therapy or cold laser, it was all about using a certain light element that would be driven into the person's body without generating heat. I'm going to review this again later, but heat is the absolute enemy. You don't want it to get hot. Hot will dilate blood vessels, bring more fluid to the surface, and block the penetration of light. It's the same thing when I take a heat pack of one of my patients' backs, it's bright red. Well, that's what heat does. We don't want heat. We want to have what we call getting under the radar so the body doesn't react, and we can get much deeper penetration that way. So it's cold. Our medical grade high-end lights that we use are always medical grade, not getting hot, what we call cold light. So at any rate, there I am doing very well. We started off with lasers and got more and more powerful. But then about 14 years ago, it was discovered that a certain element of light that I was not using could actually help with fat loss.
Oh.
And now I don't know how much you know about fat loss in the United States, but it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And people will do anything. They'll shoot themselves up with poisons. They'll, you know, I would tell my patients, if you want to lose weight real quickly and you don't give a darn about your health, just chop your arm off and 20 pounds gone right away.
Right.
But is it smart? Is that the way you want to go?
Exactly.
Well, imagine now we're learning that, this was 14 years ago, that there was an element of light could do it all naturally, non-invasive. Nothing's getting damaged or injured. We're not freezing the fat, boiling fat. We're not injuring the fat. We're not doing any of that stuff. And that's when I said, okay, this is incredible. So I got involved with manufacturing, and we were involved with lasers and pads and panels, and we were covering parts of the body as we were treating them. And then 5 years ago, give or take, COVID hit, and our practitioners wanted less physical contact between the patient and the provider.
Yeah, right.
And so we developed a bed. Now you guys can't see it, but maybe you guys, you two.
We can, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite. You've got a picture of a full bed on there with the lights top and bottom. It looks like.
Now this is the 6th generation bed. So the first bed we developed was just a replacement. And this was years ago, of what we had equipment back then, and it allowed, you know, when people ask me how much does it cost, if you're in business, you don't need staff, so you're saving thousands of dollars right off from there. But anyway, the patient can get in and out. They don't need staff. So that physical contact between the provider and patient is not there. So they just come in, they get in bed, they get out of bed, and goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's all we thought was going to be a nice substitute for what we had generated up to that point. And then within a month of us shipping the first series of beds, we were starting getting feedback that was miraculous, almost scary miraculous. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman, his name is Arnett. Now, Arnett calls up this provider that we had somewhere outside of Los Angeles, and he said, I'm having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. And this has been going on for at least 12 years.
Holy.
So every time he would die, the defibrillator that they had implanted in his chest would zap him back to life.
Right.
But by the time we met him, he was not doing well. He was dying. Every organ, every gland, you know, if you want to kill off a part of your body, just restrict blood flow to that area. Well, his blood flow was terrible. And it was depressing to him because he used to be an athlete. So there he is, a mess. And, but the practitioner called me up and said, I don't, maybe I shouldn't treat him. He's having a heart attack every other day or something like that. I said, listen, just stay in the room the whole time when you're treating him, and just treat him for 5 minutes. Normally a dose is only 12 minutes. We're only going to treat him for 5 minutes. And that patient went home that night after that 5-minute treatment. And that was nearly 2 years ago. He's had more treatment, but never had another heart attack since.
Oh, that's
That's a great success story.
Yeah. And I bet you that, like,
one of many.
And that probably totally cleared up the mental health aspect of the depression he would have had as well.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
And he talks about going into the church and after the treatment, and people would come up to him and say, you look incredible. You've gotten your health back. And he looks at them, he goes, yep, red light therapy.
Wow.
And that's how I am. I'm out of my mind with this stuff. When you talk about Arnett, that's just one of many people. In fact, one of you guys was talking about psoriasis earlier. So Jessica, who had 16 very serious conditions, 3 of those conditions were forms of psoriasis. She had glutate psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. And with the psoriatic arthritis, it developed into dactylitis, which means that she would wake up in the morning, her toes would be terribly swollen and painful and black and blue. And within 2 visits, that stopped.
Wow.
In fact, her psoriasis was fully resolved. So now remember, I started with the notion of helping people. And now, more than ever, we're hearing, thank you for giving me my life back. That's what I wanted. That's what I started with. Thank you for giving me my life back. Was it all, you know, this guy couldn't see and now he's seeing better. This person couldn't walk and now he's on treadmill and bicycle and all kinds of stuff. So it's incredible. But I wanted to tell you about Steve, because when you watch his video about Lyme disease and know that he contracted it when he was 12, It ruined his childhood. It ruined his education, his social life. And of course, he had no career. He had no energy. So by the time we met him, which was 40 years in, he was in his 50s when he gets in our bed. And he gets in it, he gets out of it. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I will tell you it did give me goosebumps. So when you watch this, you'll see how life-altering something like this can have. Now, I'm not saying don't eat right. Of course you should eat smart. And I'm not saying don't exercise. Of course you should exercise. But this light that I'm going to describe in a little bit more detail is just an element of sunlight that we're magnifying many times. Only 4 glorious elements, no UV light or blue light that screws up the circadian rhythm, just the perfect red and near infrared lights that are just incredible. We drive this deeply into the body, and that's why they make these amazing changes. But it's about sunlight. You see why chiropractors are so attracted to this. We're not interested in putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there or yanking anything out that does belong there, unless there's absolutely no other resort. But if you haven't tried the bed, and of course other smart things as well, but if you haven't tried the bed, it just takes 6 visits. After 6 visits, if you don't see any change at all, which I've hardly ever hear of, if you go in 6 visits, one of 2 things have happened. Either number 1, they forgot to plug in the bed, or number 2, you maybe have one of those rare things that either you're too far gone. I mean, we're talking about rare hereditary diseases. That we had this one guy who had LHON, which is Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. I had never heard of that before. And they asked, well, what do you think? Do you think it'd help? And I said, remember, the worst that'll happen is nothing. But that Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy is just like multiple sclerosis, but of the retina. So it was eating away the retina. And within 2 years, he was going to be completely blind. He had lost a goodly amount of his eyesight, but he was going to be completely blind. Plus, he had all kinds of migraines and other headaches and insomnia and other symptoms that went along with that. And within a relatively short period of time, we halted the progression of that LHON, just like we halt the progression of MS. It's not going to reverse the damage that's already been done, because it's like a cavity that's eating away the tissue, but it halts the progression like in a way that they've never seen before. They had nothing to do for these people, and now they do.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a quick question, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be saying out there, well, if this works so well, why isn't it being used? So for those people who might challenge what you're saying, why is this not being used more often? Why do we not hear about it? Like, what is stopping all these success stories from bringing that kind of therapy into more organizations, to more, people who do therapy such as this? What are your thoughts on that?
So have you ever seen this thing? I don't know if you have it. It's green, and you can use it to exchange for things. So you give this person this green stuff, and they're going to give you products or services or something like that. It's called money.
Yes, money. Yep. It's always a big one.
If I go to a surgeon, I say, hey, buddy, I have a great way for you to make a lot less money in your life. Are you interested?
Yeah.
They're not.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The hospitals, you know what they call this? A revenue killer.
Yeah.
So that's why, I'm not a socialist. I like capitalism. You get rewarded for good activity. You're not assuming that you could be lazy bum and still get the same benefits of the guy next to you. But by the same token, in the world of medicine, having medicine within the capitalistic system is scary, because this guy is even unconsciously motivated because he can make 30 grand or not. So what's he going to tell you? Let me see. I'm going to tell you not to do that because I don't want to make money. It doesn't happen. Yeah. And I could give you stories that, listen, 47, 48 years I've been doing this. I've been a chiropractor since 1978. I've been doing this all this time. And what do you think the problem always is? It's where's the money?
Yeah.
So if there was an insurance company that only paid for black wheelchairs, and this company had red wheelchairs, they're going out of business, because whatever the insurance says and or wherever the money is, that's what happens. So when chiropractors get reimbursed about the same amount or less than what you would have to pay to get your nails done from an insurance company, don't be surprised that the insurance companies are trying to influence people to go to a different type of
Oh,
treatment,
gotcha.
which
Yeah.
might not be very smart, but what can I do? You know, it's
Mhm.
about money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
about power. Are there other
Mhm.
things, factors involved? Of course. Is there ignorance? Of course there's ignorance. When I talk to certain people in the, first of all, in the natural medical world, they love this stuff. So if I go to your typical medical doctor, the first thing they're going to say, it's just a placebo. Well, why don't you tell Arnett that was having a heart attack once or twice a week that that was just a placebo? Why don't you tell Steve that had 50, 40 years of Lyme disease that was just a placebo? Or they'll tell you that's only skin deep. Are you kidding me? You cannot believe the depth of penetration that this thing has. So I have been faced with this question for many, many years.
Yeah.
And the answers always come down to that green stuff that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's a great question. Why? Listen, I'm telling you, take a patient, for example, that had third-degree burns. Okay, guaranteed 6 months of pain, 6 months of drugs, and permanent scarring.
Mhm.
And with the bed, by the middle of the second week, pain was gone. By the end of the third week, it was gone. Gone. By the way, gone. So why wouldn't this be in every wound center? Why wouldn't this be in every OR? Because once you have your surgery and you come out of the surgery, the recovery will be absolutely incredible.
A lot faster too, I would imagine. Yeah.
Faster and much more thorough.
So you've talked a lot about how this really helps a lot of like the physical ailments in our bodies, but because it's kind of based on the sun and some of the, you know, advantages from the sun, would it also work on other things such as our mental health? Like, is that, or is it linked to the healing of a physical?
No, Barb, you have been destined to only ask me great questions, and I appreciate that because that was one of the things I want to talk to you about. So I have a patient who wasn't my patient. I am not in practice, so but we have a patient who was terribly depressed, and I'm just giving you one example of many. So in the world of emotion and psychological help, it's tremendously helpful for that.
Yeah.
And she was very depressed and she hated her life. And after just a couple of weeks of using this bed, and remember the treatment is just 12 minutes, a dose is 12 minutes, and typically it's 3 times a week.
Right.
So after 6 visits, she wrote this note, not after 6, she wrote it a month later, and review of the results and success that she had, but her results happened within 2 weeks. And she wrote, if this is how normal people feel every day, I can't believe I've been missing out all this time. And she's thrilled. She's thrilled. And so people who are in, you know, you guys in Canada, maybe you've heard of, you know, the seasonal blues.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, if you're using our bed, that don't happen. Or that doesn't happen.
So it kind of helps with that vitamin D aspect of the sun too, then, right? You know, the part that they call it the happy vitamin. At least that's what we call it here. When you know you need
this
more
is
of
not
it in
about
winter.
vitamin. This has nothing to do with vitamin D. Not that I recommend. Don't listen. I'm not saying don't get sun. Get as much sun as you can. That's smart. I suggest 15 minutes every day or more, but not. You know, you don't want to get burnt. And if you haven't been doing it yet, just do a little bit, introduce it. But you know, getting regular sunlight makes a lot of sense. But if you want to really heal some of the issues that you have and address some of the issues that you have, and we talked about fat loss, and we talked about, listen, there are 8 visions to the company. So first of all, skin from head to toe, fine lines and wrinkles on the face, under the chin, jowl region, and crepe neck, all that look much, much better. But skin from head to toe, all the issues, eczema, psoriasis, and all that sort of stuff. So it's face or skin, fat loss, and healing. But there's also great success within the healing world of men's health. So that guy Arnett, who had the heart attacks, when you watch that video and he talks about his erectile dysfunction, there's a little humor to it as well. When he says that, to his great surprise and his wife's joy, he doesn't have that problem anymore.
Good stuff.
So men's health, women's health, by the middle of the second month, most painful periods are pretty much milder or gone. Even ovarian cysts and all these things. And again, you're going to think I'm just wrapping away. I'm going to give you the proof in just a moment. But there, as I said, 8 categories. One of them's emotional and psychological issues. Another one's athletes. So the reason why we're in many athletic facilities all over the country, especially boxers are a great example. Because in most sports, there's a possibility you're going to get injured. But in boxing, whether you're the winner or the loser, you're going to get
Guaranteed. Yeah.
So these boxers get in our bed before their bout to get themselves ready, and then after the bout to recover. So it's called performance and recovery. So we have it in NBA, we have it with the Olympic training centers and stuff like that. And it's been phenomenal for them. But I wanted to point out, first of all, to learn more about this, I would recommend you go to the website, which is trifectalight.com. The trifecta stands for the triple effect of skin, fat, and healing. Trifectalight.com. And on there is a lot of good information. All the ways to the right of that website is the Contact Us page. And on the Contact Us page, on the left side of that Contact Us page, you can click on it and find if there's a location near you, because that's what this takes.
Excellent. Yeah.
If you're complaining at all, when you wake up in the morning, you're complaining. In the afternoon, you're complaining. In the evening, you're complaining about pains and aches and issues, and you haven't used the bed 6 times, then we don't want to hear about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Quick question for you, Carl. Is that a US only type find the place near you that has this?
The majority of the locations are in the United States.
Okay. Just so our audience is aware that they may not
some
find.
Canadian, we have some Mexican, we have, but it's going to be expanding. And getting back to the website, on the left side is a great way to find out if there's a location nearest you and try it 6 times. You know, in Canada, life's a little different. But in the United States, people do not realize how expensive it is to be sick. And I liken well-being and health like a candle that burns bright all the ways from the beginning down to the bottom and then sputters out and dies. That's not how most people pass away, unfortunately. The last 20 years of their life is spent as an invalid sometimes. And they're stuck in a wheelchair. They can't feed themselves. They can't wash themselves. And they can't even wipe themselves. And I don't want that for myself. I'm 72 years old, and I try to stay active. I use the bed 3 times a week and will for the rest of my life without a particular ailment. But I want to, you know, I know we all are going to get older, but you want to do it as gracefully as you possibly can. My wife has this elbow issue. When we go to an event, she kind of pokes me with her elbow gently, and she says, could you just this one time not talk about red light therapy? I say, yes, honey, I won't talk about it. But the guy 2 seats over is suffering. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to say, I have an answer for you, but you need to suffer. I'm not going to do that. So I lean over. I tell him that, you know, I want to talk to him. We meet outside. I mean, he's in the early stages of Parkinson's. He's shaking and all that stuff. And I know this bed would help him. We've had great success with Parkinson's. We had this one lady that her biggest complaint with Parkinson's, she had many, but the one that bothered her the most is that when she went to church, the tremors were so severe, she couldn't hold the Bible. And within 2 weeks of treatment, that stopped. Now, she still had tremors, but she was easily able to hold the Bible. And many other symptoms got better and better. There were some things like Parkinson's, you're never going to be 100%. But it's not only about getting rid of something, it's about having the highest quality of well-being as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's quality of life that we all want.
Yeah.
Now, you've told us how to find you already online, but what is there, to wrap up today, a key takeaway you want our audience to hear from you?
I would love for them to buy my book. I don't make a penny from it. It's called Illuminated Healing, and it's on YouTube. I'm sorry, it's on YouTube. It's on Amazon. You can get it as a Kindle where you read it online. You can get it as an Audible and listen to me for 8 hours, or you can actually buy the book. I don't make a penny from that. Anything that profits from that goes to charity. So that's about the book. The other thing that I really recommend is the YouTube channel. It's great. And so if you go to YouTube and put in the @ sign and @ Trifecta Light Official, you're going to see over 120 great videos of all kinds of stuff that I think you'll really enjoy. But I also wanted to mention something that I promised I would say. Remember, I told you, I don't even want you to believe me. I want you to go to Google Scholar, and that's scholar.google.com. And if you're not familiar with it, you should be. And all you do is you put in the phrase red light therapy. And when you press enter, I wonder if you would be surprised if you would get 3.5 million entries. 3.5 million double-blind studies, research papers, articles. And then when you ask later, well, how come it's not in every hospital? How come it's not in every OR? I answered that question, right?
Yes, you
Even
did
though the research
perfectly.
is there. The medical
Yeah.
doctor is going to have his arms crossed like this and say, what's the proof? It's all over the planet. There's tons of proof. You go to Google Scholar, you put in the phrase red light therapy, and then anything after that, like lupus or weight loss or brain trauma or whatever, you put it in there, and don't be surprised if you see hundreds of different entries that will be very helpful for you to understand. 6 visits.
6
That's
visits.
it.
Great.
I
Yeah.
don't want to hear you complaining. I want to see you. Listen, remember, if you figure out that me as a chiropractor, I saw maybe 400 visits a week, a month, multiply that. So about 5,000 visits a year times 40. I believe that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what is it? 200,000
Yeah.
visits. So I've been in
Yeah.
touch with a lot of bodies and a lot of people. And a
Mhm.
lot of, so that's why I had to retire, because I couldn't keep up with that and also do all this work with light therapy. So I sold my
Yeah.
practice. I think physically I probably could still do it, but it would be, I'm not young like I used to be, even though I'm
Right.
telling you I'm better than most 72-year-olds, but that was not my goal. I'm not competing with 72-year-olds. I'm competing with myself, with how I want to do as well as I possibly can.
Yeah.
At any rate, again, I want to point out that there are no side effects. So you couldn't hurt it no matter what. I also want to point out there's really no contraindications. You might say, well, I have a metal implant, or I have the pacemaker or a defibrillator or this or electronic or metal, whatever. There's no contraindications except for one. So you can get in there with metal. You can get in there the day after surgery with the staples and watch and see how you'll heal so much faster and more thoroughly.
Wow.
The only contraindication is not a real one. It's a legal one. And it has to do with a pregnant woman.
Mhm.
When the lights would be helpful to the mother and the fetus, but if that kid comes out anything other than perfect, they're going to want to blame somebody for that. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be in that neighborhood. So I instruct everybody, let's not treat pregnant women. Effectolight.com.
Okay.
And does it have the how and the why on there as well? On the about or somewhere in there?
My book would have it, but
your book. Excellent.
not as well done on the website. It's a little bit scientific, but the way I present it it's quite excellent. Great rest of your day, and all you
Thank you.
people go to Trifecta Light, and you're not allowed to complain ever again if you haven't used the bed 6 times, or if you don't live close enough to a bed. I can understand that. No more complaining. You have ailments. I don't care, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. If you haven't tried the bed 6 times, you have no excuse.
And the book as well, Illuminated Healing. That is
Right.
your book as well. Yeah. Excellent.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for the information today. We appreciate your insight.
My pleasure. You guys take care.
Thank you, of course, to our listeners for joining us today. We do hope you were able to learn a little bit more information about red light therapy from Dr. Carl today, and some key points too to help you on your self-care journey. If you are looking for some self-reflection or development, or want to achieve goals, reach out to us to see how coaching can help. To learn more about all of our services, please visit us at twinlifecoaching.ca. Until next time, remember, you've got this.